harkens back to ancient times in which candidates appeared in the square and aired their opinions. If Chandra is ready, close the magic twinger to start. Turn to Chief Harjo. If you would come, these two microphones. By all means, it's been requested to have a prayer to begin this. Does Bill Davis want to offer a prayer? Reverend Colonel, if you would come forth, please. Unloving, willing volunteer. I would swear his hand was up. The microphone is yours.
If you'll just bear with me and forgive me for my attire. I came here in the capacity just to listen. But as we're told, anytime someone asks something of us of this capacity, we don't ever say no, we do our best. So let us offer these words for this forum. Gracious and loving Creator, we come before you in your presence, thanking you for the gift of life, thanking you for these people. We ask that you would just help them out in their endeavors. We lift up all of our community to you. We lift up our people to you. We are just humbled to be in your presence with so much that you have blessed us with. We ask that your Spirit would just be with us today as we each seek a better future for our children and our grandchildren. We ask that your Spirit would just guide us in all the things that we do. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Leonard Harjo. I'm Panther Clan. I'm a member of the Harjo Band, Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. And for the past 8 years, I've had the pleasure of serving the Seminole people as their principal chief. I come here today to ask for your support for another 4 years. One of the things that we've always encountered in the Seminole Nation is turnover, and that's been a problem for us at different times. And most of us have seen the progress, and our people demand the progress that Chillcoat Nation, Potawatomi, and others have made. And that can only come from leadership, continued leadership over a long period of time. One of the things that as we look ahead and look into the future, we've spent a big part of the last 8 years eliminating a large amount of debt that the Seminole Nation incurred in the early 2000s, both with federal programs and with the National Indian Gaming Commission. We expect probably in January or April of 2018 to make the last payment on the $13 million fine that was levied on the Seminole Nation in 2003. That fine first took 20% of our net income of gaming revenue, later 10%, and the end result of that is it basically has made it extremely difficult for the Seminole Nation to do much more than simply maintain in the last several years. We look forward to the opportunity of putting that behind us and being able to move forward in a number of areas that we've been talking about moving forward for a long time. One of the things that I came into office in '09 talking about is being able to create a Seminole Nation of the 21st century where our people would thrive economically, culturally, and most importantly, return to the self-reliance of our people. The future in that is good, and I see in terms of what I'd like to see us work on in the next 4 years, is build upon the foundations that we've created. One is no more debt. Two is we have been able to acquire about almost 1,500 acres of land. That is something that we've not had in a long time, and that's a response that I believe we were admonished by our elders years ago. Land. It's all about land. You have to have land to do certain things. One of the things is, you have to have land to feed the nation. You have to have land for access to water for the nation's survival. And it also is your means for earning a living in a variety of ways. In the modern context, it's a little bit different than it once was. but you still have to have land over which the nation can exercise its jurisdiction in order to prosper. We look at some very fundamental aspects of the Seminole Nation. One is culture and language. I get asked frequently, how do you maintain culture and language in your culture, who you are and your identity as Seminole people? It's very difficult to do that in the current environment in which we live. Most of our people, witness being here in Oklahoma City, do not live in the Seminole Nation anymore. They live outside. At least 2/3 of our people live outside of the geographic boundaries of the Seminole Nation. The future for us, in order to retain our common identity, which should be based on our culture and the values that our forefathers left us as part of our traditions and customs, has to come from the development of communities. One of the things that we must have within the Seminole Nation are communities, active communities. To that end, we've been looking for and have finally acquired 300 acres that will serve as the foundation of a new community at the Seminole Nation. It should contain housing, commercial ventures. The site we selected was the site I wanted for a new medical center for the nation, and probably will include most of our office complex as well. People from outside the nation ask, we want to go one place for service, so we'll have that place, and it's a good location. It's the corner of US 270 and State Highway 3, right across the street from Seminole State College. From that point, we believe we can build a new community for the nation, a model community for the nation. To go beyond that, though, we're talking about most of our people don't live within access. So there's a number of things that are missing as the generations move beyond the parent that lived in Seminole Nation. I told a TV reporter that last week, when I asked the question about community. Today, when the children of our nation go to grandma's, more than likely, when they visit grandma and grandpa, they're not coming to Seminole County anymore. Grandma and grandpa live in Shawnee, they live in Yukon, they live in Oklahoma City, or they live in Dallas. Their grandkids will know grandma from where they're living. And it's not going to be, and they're not going to associate that with the Seminole Nation and their Seminole identity. All they will have is that card that says they're Seminole. What we've been working for since 2009, one of the first things that was asked by our members in Dallas was, how do we need to be connected? There's two levels of community beyond the Seminole Nation that I believe are necessary. One is the creation of community associations similar to the one we have here, whose building we're in today. Seminole people have been asking for the opportunity to gather and to do the very same things that happen in this building. Language classes, a place they can connect with and identify with other, in this case, Muscogee citizens here in the Oklahoma County area. Seminole people have asked for the very same thing. And we've been hoping and working toward the day that that could happen. The resources that will be freed up should allow us to actually begin to take a look at some of that opportunity. The third thing, and the one that we've focused on a significant amount of resources, is the building an online community wherein we can reach Seminole people wherever they are. And we've invested a significant amount of time and money at the Seminole Nation building the infrastructure necessary to make that happen. We've gone from computers that were old and barely held together to today we have a modern fiber optic network throughout the Seminole facilities. And we're positioned to begin to use that for our language and other aspects of our culture and training and moving in that direction. So we're looking forward to the future in which we can begin to build the Seminole Nation again as communities in which our members can participate, both within the geographic boundaries of the nation in communities such as Oklahoma City and others where there's a large number of people, and beyond that, where there's only Seminole families who wish to connect back to the nation. I thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to answer your questions. Moderator.
Good morning. My name is Greg Chillcoat, and first off, before I get started, I want to thank OCMA, Mr. Boo Clark, the ladies here in front for their efforts this morning to allow us to have this opportunity to participate here today, and Red Stick Warrior for live streaming this for us. I do appreciate it very much in regards to it. To give you a little bit of history about myself, my parents are Larry and Ida Chillcoat. Ida Wood, Wood's her maiden name. My grandparents are Jimmy and Flora Wood. I'm from the Tuskegee Harjo band. I was born in Seminole, Oklahoma, and I don't know if I want to tell you guys this, but I'm going to anyway. I was born in 1968 and in Seminole, and so after my birth, we moved away. Went to high school at Crescent, Oklahoma, and that's where I graduated in 1986. Went off to college, received my education in funeral science from UCO to pursue what I did for my main work was in funeral science, and so I became a funeral director. And I was a funeral director for approximately about 20 years. And I've been associated with the Seminole Nation for approximately 4 years now. And I'm currently the CEO for the Seminole Nation Division of Commerce. And so that's how I got involved with the tribe, just real quick as such. So now I'm here today in front of you guys in this capacity of this election running for Chief of the Seminole Nation. For July 8th, and some of the things that I want to address with you guys and talk with you guys about is that there are some things that we need to look at, basic stuff, basic fundamental stuff that we need to address. One is that our purpose here today, you guys here in the crowd, there's a purpose for you guys being here, and I thank you guys for being here as well. And one is to have that purpose as a mission statement. All right, it's very important for the fundamentals of who we are and what we do and how we represent and serve our people. All right, it's to create a foundation and an environment that will inspire and empower people for success. All right, we need to establish that because that's important for the youth, for the elders, for all walks, all employees across the board that represent you guys out here in the community. And that is something that needs to be delivered and shared with our employees, with our people within the nation. And when I say that, because one of my main concerns is leadership. Leadership is huge. Leadership starts at the top and it works its way down. So if I'm fortunate enough to be able to win this election for chief, one of the things I want to address is leadership. Leadership is important. And that mission statement will be something that I will use to provide that leadership for others that are along with us, that are within the nation. All those employees, all those people as far as in leadership roles, they need to have that belief system and that mission statement and what we're trying to provide and pursue. And we will share that like I'm sharing it with you guys today. Every opportunity that I have to get in front and talk to somebody, that mission statement is going to be something I'm going to share because it's not only just for us, it's for others as well to understand what our direction is, what our purpose is, what we believe in, so that our employees see the discipline, see how we work day in, day out, so that if there is a tribal member that calls the office and we are there to inspire and empower people for success, that when they call and they ask for something, that they're served. All right? When I made that comment about me being in the funeral industry, a funeral home, my first thing is to be a servant, first and foremost. We are there to serve. And so when somebody calls that office and they ask a question, they need some help, we are obligated to serve them to the very best of our abilities. We don't just end it like, well, we don't do that. Well, we need to find an avenue in which to address those problems, to help them, whatever that might be. Another thing, that's just real brief in regards to that. Another thing that I would like to address is our finances. We need to look at our finances within the nation and address how we're going to fix those finances, because we currently have challenges within that area, within the nation, and we need to address those. And it's going to take some time to be able to get to sit down and to be able to work through those finances, because we're in a shortfall, and we have to see and dig down in that accounting department to see what problems we have so that we can get to the other side of that. That'll be a main concern. That'll be one of the things I want to address first, is finances, because finances is huge as far as how we operate. Another one that I want to touch base on is accountability. We have to be accountable. We have to be accountable to our responsibilities as employees, as leaders of this nation. And that is from, as I said a while ago, as far as our leadership, they have to be accountable. And they're not. And it's not there's so many challenges that we face, and there's so many difficulties. We have a huge number of programs out there that we currently have, and we have program directors. There's a lot of things going on within those factors of those programs, and it's hard for the chief and assistant chief, respectfully, to have oversight of those particular programs and know the day in, day out stuff. So we have to provide leadership to have accountability for those programs and to be able to function so that they have a better understanding, and so that we know what's going on within those programs, because it's very difficult to operate right now and have the accountability necessary and get the true indication of what our problems are. Another one that I'd like to touch base on is transparency. Transparency is huge. And really, in regards to just transparency is a very simple thing. It's just being open. It's just communicating. It's just sharing what we know with the people in the community, with the tribal members out in the general public. And so, as that information is relayed to us, or whatever that information might be, we need to be transparent to the community, to the tribal members, to the council, to all those individuals that need to have that information. So it's very huge for us, I think, to be transparent in regards to how we operate as a nation, so that individuals like yourselves have an idea of what's going on within the nation. And that'll be something that I'd like to address as well. Another one that I would like to touch base, there's several different things, but leadership, again, I'm going to stress this again. Leadership is key. Leadership is something that has to be delivered and has to be understood as we move forward as a nation. The nation is huge. All right? In order to ride a ship like that, it's just not us. It's just not me here. It takes others along the way to be able to change that. And we have to develop leadership along the way. Talking about youth, being able to provide them, give them the opportunities to develop and become that. Have these youth to understand our Constitution. If we want our children to be examples of who we are, because we're going to come and go. Just sure shooting, we're going to come and go. But those individuals that are youthful, they need to know our Constitution, need to know what we're about, know our culture, know our language, know that stuff, because it's dying. But as leaders, we need to develop them to become leaders for the future. And that's what they need to see. And so I know that my time is about to run out, but I would like to ask and thank you again for this opportunity to say a few things. And I would ask for your support in the election coming up July 8th. And thank you again. Mado.
I'm not sure who can. I also want to say thank you for the Oklahoma City branch of the Muscogee Creek community, the Red Stick Warrior Association, for holding this forum as well. My name is Lewis J. Johnson. I am the son of Charles Jiggs Johnson and Sue Ann Kilcrease Johnson. My maternal grandma is Cora Hudwa Lena, and my maternal great-grandparents are the late Josie Stevens and Molly Stevens. So it is a great honor for me to be able to be here before each and every one of you that is live and present here, and those that are in cyberspace as well. It's great to see how technology has advanced over the years, and many people can see these types of forums right where they're at in their home. So that's wonderful. I want to kind of segue off a few things that has already been said. Most of you who know me personally know that out of all the candidates in both the assistant chief and the principal chief, I am the only one that has served in different capacities as an executive officer of this tribe, the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, as a band chief of this tribe with the Tallahassee Band of the Seminole Nation, and as a council representative for the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma representing the Tallahassee Band. So over many years of experience in the intricacies of tribal government and every facet of where it works and how it functions. And that's very important in this day and time that we live in, and especially in the new era that Indian country has been tossed in with the elections at the federal level. And with this being said, there's going to be challenges, more challenges than we've ever seen before. There's going to be great opportunities, I think, and as I see it in certain areas of the new administration, but definitely with the proposed budget cuts, especially in the Interior Department, and as it pertains to health services, these things are going to take a team of chief and assistant chief who know how to navigate the troubled rivers of Washington, D.C. And when I look at the history of the Seminole Nation, which for some of you say, I think I might know that man. Well, you may not know me personally, but you may know me from my 20 to 23 years working in the museum field. Working both in Florida, with the Seminole Tribe of Florida to some extent in certain areas of culture and presentation, and also here in Oklahoma with the Seminole Nation Museum for over 20 years as well. You know, you think as you establish a career in that particular area, how much of it actually will come to effect and be able to be utilized in this present day which we now live in. I will say to you that more than I ever thought, because knowing the historical record, knowing and how to defend sovereignty and to hold up the trust responsibilities of the federal government, and also the government-to-government relationships that we must hold the United States to each and every Indian nation across this great country of ours, but also to the Seminole Nation. We are a unique tribe here in this particular area of Oklahoma. We are the last of all 39 federal recognized tribes to have a traditional form of government. Some people think that may be actually a negative. I do not believe that. Because of some of the issues that we hear that have already been spoken about today, maybe the disconnection, perhaps even the area of adaptation or assimilation or acculturation, because that we still have our form of government that ties us back to the original people groups that we always were, and it ties back to the traditional grounds as well as those tribal people groups and towns that we originally belonged to. It's very important. You're talking about maintaining an identity. You're talking about sustaining an economy. Seminoles know how to maintain an economy when we work together to do so. Every aspect of government, from the executive office to the general council and the leadership there, to the band chiefs, and even to the economic development entities that are there to actually produce additional fundings and resources for what? To be able to help promote government and the functions of government. There's a lot of talk about gaming. We don't have the same market in the present Seminole Nation jurisdiction as many tribes have. We don't have the 13 counties or more. We're not bordered to other states. The largest community in our present jurisdiction is where? It's the city of Seminole, which it was said that we acquired what we would consider a strategic location for a development of not only a community, but a good area to be able to put our stamp in the area of economic development right there in the largest community in our present jurisdiction. You know, I'm not satisfied, you know, with economic development in the area of settling just for doing business in the area of your own restricted or trust lands. We live in the United States of America. And I've always wondered why someone from a third world country can come to this great country, the United States of America. And they can come here not even knowing the language of English, but with a lot of ambition and hard work and pursuit of their dreams. They do what they need to do to get going in business, and some of them are multimillionaires today. That's individuals doing that. We hear the stories. We are a nation. We ought to do business in America as other enterprises do business in America. It's Muscogee Nation right here in Oklahoma City. You heard at the beginning that we start an embroidery business right here out of this particular area. Seminole Nation's already up in this area outside of their traditional historic boundaries. So there's things that we can also do. But what we have to do as a tribe, for the most part, is work together. See that vision of what we need to do and go forward with all strength. Sovereignty is important, and we must uphold our sovereignty, and we must be able to defend our sovereignty. There's issues that's facing us today, all throughout Indian country, that can be very devastating. But with the correct and proper leadership, to be able to ride the rapid rivers of the policies of Washington, I believe we can continue to be the Seminole Nation that our ancestors always wanted us to be. True to our identity, true to ourselves, and true to our extended communities that we are a part of. I would find it a privilege to be able to serve our people once again in another term as the Assistant Chief of the Seminole Nation. And I urge each and every one of you to get out and vote on July the 8th. God bless, and God bless the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma.
I don't know what time it is, but good day to every one of you. And thank you for having us here. There's a lot of things that have been spoken of up here, but my name is Wayne Shaw. I'm running for the Assistant Chief of the Seminole Nation. I'm Sewatley Band. I was the band chair for Sewatley Band for something like 30 years. I've been sitting on the council for the Seminole Nation for like 40 years. And you know what, I can still talk to those council representatives and they still don't hear what I have to say. Because a lot of this stuff could have been avoided years ago had our council listened. I hear leadership. You putting me in there? I'm not a leader, I'm a follower. Because I'm going to follow what the people of the Seminole Nation want. The Seminole Nation can only be as strong as their own people who go to their band meetings, not sit at home for 6 or 8 meetings, then go in there and all of a sudden they got a brainstorm and go in there and say what they want. They should be attending these band meetings, telling their representatives what they want, and in turn, those representatives need to be strong enough to stand up for those people to tell the administration what to do. But it's kind of been reversed in the past few years. I don't know. Like I said, I'm only one person. I can scream and shout, and I can look like a preacher back there screaming and shouting and beating on the pulpit, but nothing gets done because nobody hears anymore. That's the same thing with a preacher. He stands up there and he'll tell you the truth. All he does is make you mad. But you still didn't hear what he had to say. He's still trying to save your soul. He's still trying to help you. But set that aside, I am a Vietnam vet, Army and Navy, Medical Corps in the Navy, I was a medic in the Army. So I've got a little experience with war. I've been selected at one time, twice actually, when we had the Milan Canyon uproar. That's what I called it. They were shooting at us. I didn't they wouldn't give me a gun. They said I might shoot somebody. But that was a different type of war. I was selected by all those elders to be their leader. And I led them. We went through that. Got that out of the way. Then we hear a few years ago again, we had the Haney Canyon blow up. And it's a black eye on us as a nation. We went through about 4 different chairmen before they finally decided to put me in. I stayed as the chairman until the end. And so I've got a little experience, and I hope that you will understand what I'm trying to say. My heart is yours. I've given you my life, and I don't expect you to vote for me, but give me a thought. And these guys up here, they're doing the same thing I'm doing. We're all soliciting votes. If that's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's not life or death for any one of us, but it might be life or death for our Seminole people. Programs, we've got approximately 30 programs down there. And I hear people say, well, how come you can't help us in Oklahoma City? Go right back again. Finances. All those programs that we have are centered on Seminole County and the constituents of Seminole County. It's not that the people up here in Oklahoma City or anywhere else outside the county don't count, because they do count. They're still my people, or our people. The thing that needs to be done is we need to start saving a little money. Former chief here said that we were working on getting out of debt. Well, once we get out of debt, we need to learn to save a little bit so we can so we can have a building like this. So we can help the people set up. They may not be big programs. It may not be able to give them 50 cents or $1. That's what I grew up on, 50 cents and $1. But we need to set these communities up. That's important. But we can't do it without finances. So I just wanted to thank y'all, and for the prayer, Moderator, I am bilingual. I forgot to put that in there. I always forget on the ending sometimes. So you'll have to excuse me. Moderator, I'm going back.
Thank you, Councilman Shaw. Estongo, Randy Northcott, Chillcoat. Hello, how are you doing? My name is Randy Northcott. I am of the Tuzgat Harjo band and the Panther clan. I have decided long ago that I wanted to make it my mission to serve our people, to serve the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. I have worked my entire adult life to prepare for this responsibility. Been a business owner for 21 years in Oklahoma City, Edmond metro area. I was taught hard work, determination, and responsibility by my parents in Seminole, Don Northcott and Jane Coker Northcott. They were the best example that I could ever ask for, that I think any kid could ever ask for, on how to better oneself, how to help the generation that comes behind us better themselves as well. We have to pay attention to what we're doing, and we have to pay attention to what our kids are doing, or else we could all be lost. And so it has been my top priority, based on advice from my mother, my grandfather. I lived next door to my grandfather as a kid, Barney Kawisi Coker. And he was a very, very tough man, very gifted man. And I am thankful every day that I had him so close to me growing up, so that I could learn from him. And one of the things that he taught me was never give up whenever you're faced with a problem. In the case of working with Grandpa, he usually was the area-wide fix-it man, the area-wide mechanic, and I watched him rebuild carburetors, and he used a Cane's coffee can to fabricate a part that he needed. It's that type of thinking where you don't give up just because you reached a roadblock or a bump in the road. And that's something that has helped me to carry forward in my own businesses, my own business ventures. It's also given me a vision to look for opportunities, to look for what needs to be fixed, and to find a way to fix those things. Thankfully, after graduating from high school in Seminole, I was offered the opportunity to join the football team at Haskell Indian Junior College. I actually went up there and played with a couple of my teammates from high school, and played with some of our biggest rivals in high school as well. But we all came together as one team. We put our old differences beside us. We learned to work together, and we actually won half of our games the first year that we were there, which was better than the year before. And so, having had experience in being a member of a team, having had experience of building a successful team, or building on the success of our team, something that translates to business, I believe it translates to the tribe. We absolutely can benefit from a team building mentality instead of what we see in some organizations, some organizational practices where folks are left without direction, left unchecked, left to their own devices. We have to have leadership in place that can relate to those people whenever obstacles put themselves in our way. We have to find a way to work through our problems and ensure our success as a whole, as a team. It's something that I believe we could greatly benefit from. I hear talks of a complete overhaul being needed of our tribal organization as far as our executive office, tribal employees. I believe that employees are the backbone of any organization. And if they're already in place and they just need a little training, or they need some encouragement, they need to be shown the right way to do something, we have an expectation as members, we have an expectation as leaders that they will follow our direction. And I believe that any problem has a solution. And so that's one of the solutions that I see is working with what we have right now, and we have to look to the future. Our history is rich. Our history is strong. I've been proud to wear the name Seminole my entire life. I've taken my family to visit the Florida area because it is part of my children's history, my children's heritage, and they need to share in that and gain full knowledge of our history. It's also something that we can build on. We can build on that strength and use the strength of our ancestors, their existence, their way of living. If we don't pass that on to our kids, it will be forgotten and it will be eventually lost. But I believe that every time we come into an election year, more emphasis is put on language, more emphasis is put on our culture by whatever administration may be in office at the time. It's something that we should be putting focus on every year, every day, by all of our leaders for our tribe, not just in an election year. And so we have to practice what we preach. We have to put our money where our mouth is. If you want to know where someone's heart is, just look at where they're spending their money. So if we're going to have a heart for our language, for our culture, for our churches, we need to support them all the time, not just some of the time. And that's the only way that we're going to get the strength, the frequency, so that our people, so our kids can benefit from that history. And we have to teach them not only how to remember and preserve our past, but we have to have leadership that will take us into the future. We live in a time where business moves at a rapid pace, and we have to keep up with that business. We have to keep up with opportunities. We have to spot opportunities, and we have to develop those opportunities, and we have to be able to do it at a rapid pace. And having experience in the business world, having experience with the federal government, there's nothing to be afraid of if we know what's going on around us. Our youth, Native American youth, has a 33% dropout rate of high school right now. We have to put focus on coaching those kids along in the classroom and helping them to have the tools that they need to succeed. The Department of the Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs, they're facing over $300 million in budget cuts right now. And we have to counteract that. We have to take a lesson from those tribes around us who have been preparing, who have seen this coming, in order to ensure our survival, ensure our programs for the tribe. I appreciate your vote. We vote in 1 week, next Saturday, July 8th. But up.
Yeah.
I thank the candidates for their each 10-minute presentation. Want to throw the candidate forum open to questions, and first I will turn to the physical audience in front of me. Are there individual questions of candidates? Are there questions for all of the candidates? I'm an Indian, I know about silence. Although I'm not sure the electrons know about silence. Question?
question for all of the two candidates that are running for chief. I was in a general council meeting this past week, and one of the things that I heard was in some of the Mr. Chillcoat had said about leadership, and you know, a lot of that goes also back to our general counsel too, because there needs to be teamwork, and a lot of times too, there's no connection there. But I would like to know how they would, what are some of their plans for this budget deficit, how would they approach that budget deficit as chief? Mr. Chillcoat.
Question about leadership and communication.
Thank you for the question. In regards to our budget and what we're going to do about the finances. The thing is here, in regards to, we know we have a deficit, all right? The problem is I don't know how bad the deficit is at this current time. And so that kind of leaves us a little bit vulnerable with understanding how much of a deficit. We have a projected number out there, but we're still operating under that assumption of that deficit. So to deal with that, I'm going to have to, if I'm fortunate enough to get elected in, I'm going to have to break down and see where our deficit lies, how much it is, because there's going to have to be some shoring up to do with our finances. Because we have expenses out there right now currently that are probably that we could cut back on, just in general. It's just like we're using this facility today, and that bathroom light might be on. But see, that bathroom light, so if nobody's using it, needs to be turned off. We need to look at those avenues like that to be able to be more disciplined with how we operate our business. Because in a business, even though that is not a business, it's a government entity, but it still needs to function like that because we still have to pay for those resources or those utilities, those overheads. And so we have to be very careful how we operate. And that's how I would look at those finances to be able to address the shortfall, one of the ways to address that. Now, depending on how the magnitude of our shortfall could determine whether or not something gets changed, something gets, say something gets removed for a temporary time to be able to get it back in balance, get it back in check. That'd be something that we would have to look at as well. If we're using money that's not being resourceful, being productive with it, if it's just out there, there's a program that needs more attention to it, and it's more important, then we're using money over here that we're not spending wisely, then we need to take that money and move that money over to that particular location to give it its priority so that we can balance that budget. It has to be looked at and it has to be addressed. Other thing, in regards to communication, in regards to the floor, there has to be communication between the council reps. But as the chairman of the general council, if you're the chairman of the general council, your responsibility is just to be the chairman. I mean, you are just supposed to be there to have oversight over that council to make sure everything flows properly in regards to the direction of how the general council communicate with each other and how they respect one band rep to another. And that's how I address that as far as communication. Does that answer the well?
Well, one of the things too that they had mentioned was cutting the general council had mentioned cutting the burial, some of the funds on to the burial program and to the children's clothing line that they would offer the kids. And to me, those are our elders.
Yes.
You do not touch money that is set aside for our elders because they have lived that generation for us previously, and they went through a lot. You don't touch what's money that's set aside for them. And this is by the general council and the kids. Those are our future. The kids are our future. So you don't touch anything that has, that is set aside for their future too. And that was something that I felt like, our general council, I don't attend that much, but I'm getting more involved now. And so I feel like that's those two areas there, that there should be no money that should be cut from those two programs that are set for our elders and our youngers.
Okay,
And that's what, I want to make sure that that's not set forth in whatever comes about.
If I may, I wasn't there when they discussed that about in regards to the judgment fund, but the judgment fund is established and they have their own board. All right, and they meet periodically in regards to that. And if I remember correctly from information that was provided to me, that there's a shortfall, there's a possibility of a shortfall within the judgment fund, and there was a possibility of talk about that. All right, that's a very important topic, what you just talked about, because if they're cutting that again, see, they're cutting resources that are available to the people, to those elders, to the kids, whatever that might be as far as that cut's concerned. Well, if that's the case, and there's a cut, then we need to look at where our overage is, where our slough off, where we can pull some money from to help. That's in a very important comment, very important department, very important area. So we need to look at a different area to pull that income from, to be able to move that from, to be able to just do that. But you have to communicate that. You have to let that be known so that nobody knows that you're, doing something you shouldn't be doing. But that money, there could be monies that could be used from a different area to come and fill that void. But it just has to be communicated to the council and to the people around so they have an understanding. Because you're asking a question that you were at that particular meeting and you're bringing it to the table. And because you are, it's very good. So we need to communicate about it and do it and put it into action. If there is a shortfall there, then we need to address that.
And that's one of the things I'm going to do is because I belong to the Tuskegee Harjo band too.
Good, okay.
And so that's some of the issues that I'm going to, battle for our people too, because I feel like that's something that, we need to never take away from our people in those two areas for our youngsters and for our elders. And when our general counsel brought that up, and this was all the general counsel, most of them, and I felt like, wow, there's a change. There's a change of, where we, who we're serving. If you really need to look at who you're serving. You're serving the people, and our elders and our youngers, our future people, and the people who have walked before us. And so there's a, disconnection there.
Does Chief Harjo want to respond?
One of the, I guess the first place to start on that is the programs that you're referring to, burial, the tribal burial program, the higher education program for the judgment fund, children's clothing assistance are the main three that are still present. Those programs are 100% funded with what we call the judgment fund, which is a trust fund that was created from the Florida Lands Claim Settlement. No other source of funds is used for those programs at this time. And part of the reason for that is that there's a specifically defined group of eligible individuals who receive those. So everything is designed for all the programs to be funded from the proceeds of that trust fund. We are required under the usage plan approved by Congress to use only the proceeds, the annual revenues, to fund the programs. For probably the last 15 or 20 years, the annual rate of return on those trust funds have been declining. Most of us in the room here remember when interest rates on even our savings accounts and CDs was over 10%. When this fund was created in the early 90s, we were earning probably 9–10% on the fund. Today, the total portfolio earns 2.7%. We need approximately 4.5% to maintain the benefits that were in place about 4 years ago. Next year, the Trust Fund Management Board has told the council that they expect annual revenue to be $1,050,000. The 2018 budget, based on the current benefits, and we've already cut some programs. Remember, we suspended the 18-year payment. We've actually reduced clothing from $150 to $100, and we've restructured payments through higher education. Graduate School is no longer available. VOTEC is no longer available through that. The base benefits that we provided this year will cost us, the Trust Fund Management Board estimates, with about between 1.3 and 1.4 million next year. So the deficit they were discussing is at least 275,000 between what is going to be available and what we would have to spend. So the question that was posed to the council that night by the Trust Fund Management Board is, well, what do we do now? You know, we're at a point where we've already reduced benefits to a level of some of these programs, which makes it very difficult. And so we have an option. We can either cut the benefits again, cut a program, and keep it in line, because we do have a balanced budget requirement on that in tribal law. Because for a number of years, we actually spent more than we were earning. So to try to address that problem and keep the core investment base from declining even further, the council about 3 years ago approved a balanced budget requirement. So hence the need for, what do we do? We have limited options, one of which is to cut benefits again. And you heard one of the proposals from one of the council representatives that night would be to reduce burial assistance. The other option, which Mr. Chillcoat has indicated, is use another funding source. We have other funding sources that would probably help. One of which is the remaining funds from the settlement on our trust mismanagement claim a couple of years ago. We have about 3.6 million there that could be used to assist in this process to save one of those programs and keep us back online. But that's only a short-term fix. The long-term fix is we have to probably look at very seriously the option of removing that principal from trust, federal trust, and place it into a privately managed trust so that we can earn a higher rate of return. As I said earlier, it takes about at least 4.5% to 4.5% to fund the programs that were in place. We've gone over 25 years in the base invested money, which was started around 40 million. It's valued at 38, right, the last report to the council in April. That hasn't grown. Costs of everything have gone up in that time period. We've not been able to increase benefits at all. If we're going to restore that set of funds and revenue to health, where in the future our children can actually begin to receive higher benefits and we can restore the benefits of the full program, we're going to have to invest that money at a higher rate of return. Still needs to be as safe as it can be so we don't lose it in the stock market. But we are going to have to consider the options of being able to invest in more than simply U.S. secured bonds, which is the limitation that the Treasury and the Office of Special Trustee have by federal law. That's the only way we're going to restore that fund to health and create a long-term solution for the deficit shortfall in that area. That's the unique aspect of our shortfall area. And that is the main, we need to get that program back, that funding source back to health, because that's the main source of the benefits that we provide universally to tribal members regardless of where they live. So that, getting that back to a point where not only can it begin to pay the benefits that we'd like it to pay back to where they were, but also to increase those benefits over time, we've got to put that back, in a position where it can earn more money than it can under the administration of the Office of Special Trustee. That's the only way we're going to get those programs back to health. Thank you.
Chief, when I went to the meeting, there was a representative, I think his name was Farhini, I can't pronounce his name.
Ron.
Yeah, he introduced some of his work. I guess he was on a committee.
She's on the trust fund now.
Yeah, and I thought that was a very good presentation that he gave. And I know that it's a decision that's based on the general counsel, but is there some way that the general counsel voted this down? this decision to help with this budget deficit. And
Actually, they did not vote it down.
they did,
What they asked is the Trust Fund Management Board go back and give them some more definitive options to look at. We're going to have to do that with respect to the 2018 budget, but this is the one we're looking at.
I noticed a lot of the general counsel, a lot of them were,
It was, well, most of the council obviously had knows the constituency that they serve had kind of the have the same idea that you had. There's certain things we don't want to cut, but that information has got to be given to through the membership. And remember, our standard process is we provide information to the council. And it's the council's responsibility to provide that information to the membership through, generally through our band meetings. And one of the things we've done in recent years to try to facilitate and improve that is we went completely electronic in our distribution of information to council. So they have a portal. Everything that we distribute goes onto that portal, and they all have an iPad that they can use. In terms of being able to help, right? They have a much better access to that information than they've ever had. But we still are challenged in how do we get that information from what they had to, to individual members, even at band meetings. That's still an ongoing problem. We've had that problem forever, and it's still not something we've come up with a good solution for. But right now, the process will be the Trust Fund Management Board will take what they heard and try to put that into actual concrete numbers for the council to consider. Again, without changing the law, we're going to be looking at a budget for judgment fund programs next year that's $1,050,000. So we're either going to have to cut programs or use some other source of funding to be able to keep this year's benefit levels at the same dollar amount. Thank you.
Are there other chiefly candidates who want to respond?
We're on assistant chiefs. She addressed that to the two chiefs.
and the assistant chiefs too.
I stand corrected.
I'm one of those she heard speak over there the other night, and we didn't vote on it. But there are a lot of there's no solution to making our interest go up. But the one thing that was left out is that the chief vaguely hit on it was that we need to take our money out of that trust and go ahead and invest it in the private sector so we can get that 5 or 6% interest to keep our programs up. I can only speak for my band and as a band representative is that they're scared. They don't want to take it out of it. But the other thing is I made a suggestion in the general council in their infinite wisdom several years ago took that money, they call it heat money, monies that were given to the elderly. I think that's what you're talking about. Those that are 62 and above. At one time, we started it out at 65. You couldn't get any money out of it till you reached 65. Some of them decided that, I'll be 62 here in a few years. I may not make it 65, so the general council, in their infinite wisdom, brought it down to 62. What I'm suggesting the other night was that we take that 62, I'm sorry if it's going to hurt somebody's feelings, but we need to put it back at 65. Now that's only a Band-Aid, because once we get it there, and one of the things that wasn't mentioned is that money in our judgment fund is already, how do you say it, it's already invested. And it's going to take a year, some of it's gonna take 2 or 3 years to get out of there so we can reinvest that. But in the meantime, we've gotta have that Band-Aid and we need to teach our people about finances. Teach them that, you know, you can only squeeze $1 out of this person here, but we can take it and put it over here, maybe we can get $2 out of this one. But right now, the way things are set up and the way our judgment fund has been invested, you're looking at a year, 2, 3 years down the road before it can be drawn out and reinvested. But in the meantime, we've got to come up with a Band-Aid. That's what I call it, the Band-Aid. Either that or cut programs. And I feel that we've cut too many programs. At one time, I was always teased around and laugh about it, but at one time I was too young to be old. Now I'm too old to be young. I can't get no help. So I've been stuck in the middle for a lot of years, and that's where a lot of our people are. They're in the middle. They're not young, and they're not old. They can't get help at either side because they're stuck in the middle. And I understand that. I've got a daughter here in Oklahoma City who's been trying to get help. Only help she gets is the IHS clinic out here. And Daddy's pocket. But those are the things that we've got to do. We've really got to take and study our finances. We really got to sit down and say, we know it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. We know we're going to step on somebody's toes, and it's harsh. But we're going to have to do it. Tighten that belt. Not only at our judgment fund, but across the whole nation, so we can save some money, maybe to do those things like this, supplement those programs.
How many elders are the little ones who are going to school?
That right there. Well, now, which elder are you talking
I
about?
like the burial fund for the elders that
Okay,
have
that's-
lived a long life and they've worked, they've walked the steps before us, and I feel like that's something that, you know, they're living on fixed incomes already, and that $3,300 is nothing. They're still going to have a deficit to pay when they pass on and their families. You know, that's something that I think that they're entitled to as a Seminole Nation. That should not be touched. And the kids' clothing, that's for them too, for their future. And it's an incentive for them to attend school and to feel like they are a member, the little ones. So I just feel like those two areas there, that's something that we don't need to.
My band wholeheartedly agrees with you on that. Because when I die, I've earned my $3,000, I think. My family deserves that $300 to feed the people who come to the funeral, as we always do. But those children also, if we take that clothing order, cut it down to where it's small enough that they can't go down and get enough but a pair of tennis shoes and a shirt, maybe. When they get new clothes, our kids going to school, they walk around like this. I got a new shirt on, I got new pants on, you know. It helps. $150 or $100 today isn't going to buy but one set of clothes for the kids, and y'all know it. We wish we could give more.
But it's an incentive for them
I
to not touch
wholeheartedly,
that.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Our band wholeheartedly agrees with you. So, and I know there's going to be some, well, we didn't say that. Yes, we did. Those of you in the Seminole band that are watching or in here, you need to come down to your band meeting and voice your opinion there. Don't sit up here in Oklahoma City and gripe about those things that are happening down there, because you're the people, y'all are the ones that actually dictate what your general council representatives do. Without you, there's no general council representatives. Well, there are, because there's some of them that don't have band meetings now that go and vote the way they want. And I think that's wrong. So that's all. I just want to try to explain that there's some areas, but we wholeheartedly would agree with you on the burial and children's benefit. I wish we'd get the kids more money. But, you know, my kids are all out of school except for two. I adopted me two little bitty ones, so I'm doing fine. So those of y'all that, like I said, I kind of might have overstepped my boundaries telling you the Seminole band people out there or you as Seminoles, to go to your band meeting, participate, don't sit and grind. And I want y'all to vote for the simple reason, then you can grind. Many of you don't vote, but you want to grind. Participate, be a Seminole. Maliwag mga.
A lot has been said on this particular subject matter and probably could go most of the day just on this one question. But just for clarification purposes, we have a two-part question. You were looking at the overall budgets of the nation, which comprises of the federal funds that contribute to the nation's comprehensive budget. And then you look at the S&GE funds, which is our gaming funds that contribute to the comprehensive budget of the nation. We have a tribal law that actually is called, and has a part of it, Certified Revenue Report. It's mandated by tribal law each year that the revenue producing entities of our nation provide the information how they are going to contribute to the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma when the comprehensive budget is being organized. Money comes in from BCR through the fees and tags that our people participate in, either our entities buying at our convenience stores, and the tax off of that, goes into there. The tags definitely is a big part of that money stream from BCR, and other types of permits and such that is being introduced even as I speak. The other funding source is the Division of Commerce, which is the enterprise that is governed by tribal law to create business. And under the Certified Revenue Report, what we realize today, and I know that it's difficult, especially in the landlocked that we have. Even our gaming at its highest levels can only reach certain levels simply because of the market that we're in. I expounded on that earlier, that we're in a very rural area. We don't have the expansion of the counties nor border to other states as many tribes are fortunate to have. So yes, there are challenges. But in this Certified Revenue Report, BCR gives us the amount that they're going to contribute. S&GE gives us the amount they're going to contribute to the general fund. And obviously, the Division of Commerce gives us theirs as well. That areas of business enterprise, both in gaming and both at the Division of Commerce, is going to have to increase. Because those shortfalls in the areas of trying to operate a nation only on federal funds is in gaming revenues and revenues from the BCR just has to be a time of the past. No longer can the economic development entities of this nation be accepted to not produce any profits to be able to contribute to that comprehensive budget process. That can no longer be accepted. There is one area we've already drawn from. It's helped us meet some of our budget shortfalls we were speaking of. And we have an individual here today that's been working with the tribe only a few months, probably 6-7 months, maybe a little longer. But around February, there was a program kicked in that a lot of tribes had already participated in years past. It's called the Tower Construction Notification System, cell tower notification. What it allows you to do is in your historical lands to be able to have consultant fees for reviews wherever there's new cell towers going up or even additions to those cell towers. If there's any environmental impact, archaeological findings, we have the right under federal law of Section 106 of the National Preservation Act to be able to consult in all those historical areas. Where are those historical areas? Anywhere Seminoles once was, whether we settled there permanently or that we just passed through those particular areas. That came to be by a resolution. There was actually from Tuvalu Band, a gentleman that worked in historical preservation for other nations, and actually another tribal member who worked for another nation that we met. When I say we, they, and I, and we met, and I looked at the format of it. And I looked at the format, we need to be doing this. Council passed the resolution. So in less than 6 months, we have nearly $300,000. $80-something thousand has already been appropriated from that account, and we still have nearly $300,000 in that account. It is estimated that will actually make annually, if the Trump administration does not do something that prevents this from continuing, a potential of $1 million to $1.3 million annually each year. And that's run by our Historical Preservation Office. That's where the review process is done. That's a great, great asset to our tribe. I don't really say we should use all those funds to supplement certain things all the time, but we should grow our culture and Preservation Office with some of these funds as well. I believe that, and I believe that we should set some aside. And normally what takes place if you have a set amount of money, what you begin to do is you begin to draw from it till it's all dry. As far as judgment fund, for some of you listening that wonder what federal trust fund that is, that's our Florida lands claim settlement. That started way back in the 1940s under Roy St. Louis. That's a name that's not been mentioned in decades. Mr. Paul Niebel, who was our attorney in our Court of Claims. Charlie Grounds was locally in the Seminole County area, and James Rogers. All those worked in the council of that day, worked very, very hard to get our claims in the Court of Claims. So the judgment fund came from those claims of the Florida lands claims, and it was determined, the settlement between the Seminole tribe of Florida, I believe any of the auspices of the Seminoles there in Florida, and also the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. We got the larger part of the judgment because we had the larger population. And that's the fund that you're speaking of. We cannot spend the primary amount. That's against what Congress had mandated. And as Chief already said, we can only spend those revenues that come in from the interest yields from that particular account. So over the years, what has happened is those interest yields have been closely, in the early times, in the 90s, that's when you could have really made a lot of headway in some of your investments, but not necessarily with trust fund, Office of Trust Fund Management. As the Chief said, they're limited in what they can invest in. But our tribe has grown almost 3 times the amount that we once was, even when this judgment fund was being decided on and negotiated over. And obviously, if your interest rates are not meeting the demand of 10, 15 years ago, wholly and heartedly, with a lot of extra money from that, it was to a certain extent. It's not going to do it when your population base grows. What we found out in that presentation of Mr. Ferrani was this, that there are some Seminoles that actually get a benefit of up to $16,000 out of this over a period of time. You're talking about clothing, you're talking about education, you're talking about those types of things. Over that period of a kid or a child going to school and then going on to college, a large amount of that judgment fund proceeds goes to that one individual. Say an elder that was already an elder at the time when that came in, they don't get that same amount of benefit, not up to $15,000, $16,000. And I don't think at that time that the council that was in place, or even the negotiations for the usage plan, perhaps that didn't even enter their mind at that time. But I can guarantee you, as sure as I'm standing here before you today, it has been asked many times over the last 15 years. And what happens in those types of presentations, similar to what Mr. Ferrani brought up, is what are we going to do? I once was shared with the council with full respect for the bands that they represent. We cannot sit with our hands folded under the desk anymore in this area of our judgment fund. That we must roll our sleeves up and come together around the table of reason and make decisions that will keep this in place and producing for our people for many years to come. What do you do with the shortfall? Well, those proposals came forth. There was one that I thought probably had made more sense than any of them, because it would get you what you would call a 2-year period that you had a time to devise a better plan to how you're going to actually address the overall budget shortfall. And that one would be able to fund it with other resources for all the ones that are 62 down to, I believe it was 60, and just go ahead and pay them their monies that they would have got at 62. It would be something that would be continued practice every year, after the 2-year period passed, but it would give the nation a 2-year period to be able to come up with a divisive plan. That is Trust Fund Management Board that overlooks that and gives those particular suggestions and recommendations to the tribal council. And back a few months ago, I was just at an area where a gentleman had said, Chief, he said, Mr. Johnson, he said, I'm a former professor of finance. I'm retired. He said, whatever I can do to help the Seminole Nation, I will do. And we brought him to Trust Fund Management. This is a doctor of finance. And he gave some great suggestions. And what I will share with you, there's some difficult decisions ahead in some of these areas, and even in the judgment fund. There won't be popular decisions to be made, but the council will have to roll up their sleeves and make decisions. As far as cutting burial, I don't see that really happening unless the council does it. As far as going down any further on the children's allowance for clothes, you can't go down any further than what it is, or you're not going to be able to get anything with that. So what we have to do is, in a work environment with a fiscal responsibility on our minds, come together to solve the issue that's in front of us. So that's my comment on that question.
I'm glad you asked the question, because now you're in my wheelhouse. The past 21 years I've been a business owner. I was taught business operations by my dad. When I was 26 years old, I was hired as the youngest vice president of an oil and gas company based out of Toronto, Canada, with an office here in Oklahoma City. The company had invested $25 million in. At 26 years old, I was asked to oversee operations. Well, once the chief operating officer actually read my resume, he decided that I needed to also handle acquisitions and mergers for this company, because they were in a time where oil and gas was about to spike, and so they were in a buying frenzy. So they sent me out into the field, 26 years old. We've all seen most of us have seen the TV series Undercover Boss, where the owner of a company goes in to one of his own businesses and in disguise, and he finds out what's going on from the inside. Well, at 26 years old, this company, Aspen Energy Group out of Toronto, Canada, felt like I had the experience and the knowledge where they could send me into companies that they were prospecting to buy without having bought them yet, and send me into, as a new hire, to investigate that company from the inside out. I was simply doing what I've been told to do my whole life by both my parents, and that is pay attention. That paying attention that I was taught, that I have done as an adult, has paid dividends for my family. It has paid dividends for my employees, because if you're going to go out hunting, you've got to know what you're hunting for. You've got to know how to kill it and drag it home so your family's got something to eat. Whenever it comes to cuts to elder burial assistance, kids, clothing, we have every opportunity in the world to go out and develop new sources of revenue. We have every opportunity to bolster, to strengthen the businesses that we have right now. But we have to do it from the top down, some say the bottom up. I look at our leadership as a reverse pyramid. Our leadership is the base. Our leadership is what sets the foundation for the rest of it, and it grows out from there. Whenever we have a financial institution or a business arm of our tribe, we've got to get behind that institution, that department, because they are part of the bread and butter that we need to exist on as far as funding goes. It all comes down to funding. It all comes down to the bottom dollar and how many dollars are left to disperse among our members in order to meet their needs. I've taken an $800 investment when I was 23, turned it into an income, a full-time income for my family, my young family, for 3 years while I was finishing business school at Oklahoma Christian University. I started this business as a research project for my business class. I thought, I think this will work. So I put my money where my mouth is, and I went out, I bought the equipment, I bought the inventory, and I started a tire business, specifically used tire business in Edmond, Oklahoma, where there wasn't anybody selling used tires. They have an influx of 50,000 college students every time school's in session with the different universities in Edmond. And so those college students can't afford new tires, because I was a college student and I sure couldn't. So I hit on a market there that worked. 3 years later, whenever I graduated from college, the day after, I sold the business for over 50 times what I had put into it to get it started after it provided for my family. I have also started a car dealership that's 2 car dealerships now. I started it with a $500 investment and time. Time is the most important commodity that we have. After 7 years and getting paid, making an income and living for my family for 7 years, I stepped away from that business, drew down my interest in it, and took 6 months off of work and decided, what else could I do? I saw a need in the roofing and construction industry where there was one certified installer of metal roof panels, metal roofs, in the state of Oklahoma that serviced the biggest metal producer of metal roofs in the state. I grew up in Seminole building log homes with my dad and my uncle and roofing those log homes. So there's no fear involved whenever it comes to getting over into another industry, whenever it comes to crossing over. My dad taught me a lot of things, my grandpa taught me a lot of things, my mother taught me a lot of things. I just have to have the courage to step out and do something different whenever I see the opportunity. So I started that business, Blackstone Roofing and Sheet Metal, with a $10,000 investment. I'd actually been saving that money to go buy a Harley Davidson motorcycle. If I'd have made a right turn out of my driveway, I would have went and looked at 3 motorcycles, and I probably would have bought one. But I'd read a book by an author named Robert Kiyosaki. The title of the book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The thing that I took away from that book, more than anything that has made the biggest difference in my life, whenever we have saved some money, whenever we have a little bit of money, and we want a toy, we want something there's something over here that we want. Don't take that money and go buy that toy, because then all you'll have left is that toy. And toys get boring, toys collect dust. Instead, go buy tools. Take your money and go buy a tool. And use that tool to work and make more money, so that then you have the luxury of buying a toy that you might want, but you've still got the tool to keep working with, and you can continue to do what you want. You have funding to do it. You can fund yourself. For the roofing and construction business that I started, it was a $10,000 investment. I didn't even have to spend all of it. Over time, well, I had 10 months in the year that I started the business before the end of the year. $3,989,000 is what that business generated. I'm one guy. I did not have a support staff. I didn't have a secretary. I went out and I hired a team of men off of Craigslist on the internet, because that's the world we can operate in today. We don't have to do it the old-fashioned way anymore. We have to utilize the tools. I utilize the tools that were at my disposal. I hired men out of Tulsa. We got a job on Altus Air Force Base making a repair. We finished that repair in 35 days. And they gave us the rest of the base. They had originally signed a 90-day contract to give us the time to do this repair. We outran the contract because my guys took pride in their work. They wanted to do the job. We beat the contract. They gave us the rest of the entire Air Force Base. My business was 3 days old whenever I got that contract. I don't sleep a whole lot because there's too much to do. This is a job that I look forward to doing because it needs energy. It needs new energy. It needs new ideas. It needs new vision. We don't have to keep doing things the way that we've always done them just because that's the way it's always been done. That is not logical. It is old logic, and it needs to change if we are going to move forward, if we are going to develop, if we are going to thrive, if our elders and our kids are going to benefit, and if everybody else is going to benefit. One of my favorite sayings is, a rising tide lifts all boats. It doesn't lift one group over here. It doesn't lift one group over here. It doesn't just lift the group in the middle. It lifts everyone. And we all have to come together. We all have to make the changes that are needed so that we can move forward and so that we can continue to build up. Get out of the hole that we're in. That's fine. It's a given. No crying over spilled milk. If we've got a deficit, we've got to fix it. We absolutely have to fix it. Then whenever we get through digging, whenever we decide to stop digging and we fill in that hole and we get back to ground level, then we can start raising it up. We can start lifting it for everyone. Being transparent, letting folks know what's going on with our government, with our budget, with our funding. Greg and I both agree that our tribal budget could and should be published in the tribal newspaper, or if we did a profit sharing report to members. We've got to let people know what we're doing. We've got to let people know what's going on, because that's the best way that we're going to get people interested, get them involved, and get that central energy going for our people again, so we can all do a good job and so we can all get there together. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time.
Questions from the physical audience in front of me? Yes, ma'am?
I'm Sheila Harjo. I'm the current band chief for the Jitty Band, former council member for 8 years. I heard Mr. Northcott say something that almost made me jump out my chair earlier. He said, put your money where your mouth is for our language programs. Chief Harjo's been saying that since day one. So I'm glad to hear Mr. Northcott say that. But I'd like to ask Mr. Northcott and anybody else, what more do you want to expand on our language programs than what we currently have?
You go first. Appreciate the question. Sorry I talked so long before. Identifying the personnel, the right people that we can put in to have the skills to carry our language forward, to teach. You can have skills and not the desire, but matching the people who have the skills and the desire to teach our young people and our middle-aged people. I guess I'm middle-aged, but someone who we can rely on, we can depend on, and having a program that we can rely on. Whenever I found the Red Stick Warrior Association, it was because I was searching for an opportunity, searching for a class where I could learn more about our language. I saw that Edwin Marshall was teaching the class. I remember him from whenever I was young. He used to work with my aunt, Shirley Anyhaw, over in Wewoka. What more we could do, I would say do it all the time. Make it something that is a staple of our tribe, that is consistently funded, that is classes that are consistently held. If someone wants to find a class to learn to speak our language or learn to sing our hymns, Joe Kuhn, I come in here and Joe Kuhn is a great hymn singer. He might say different, but he makes the class enjoyable. Edwin Marshall makes the class enjoyable. And I come here every time that there's a meeting because I have a heart and a desire to learn. Now, what could be done more? Whenever I say frequency, that's just consistent, steady pace, consistent availability to all members at all times, every year, every single year, from here on out. That should be something that our members have a guaranteed expectation that will be there and that will be supported by our nation, so that they can learn our language and they can continue on with our language and become fluent. A person can't become fluent in 3 classes. That's what the classes are right now. They're in 3 class blocks, and then it continues on if there's funding. Well, whenever I say put our money where our mouth is, I absolutely believe in what Jeremy and David are doing. And whenever it comes to funding, we should all support their program, their association, because they're doing the right thing. They're doing it with their heart. They've been doing it since before this election year, and that's why I support them with everything that I've got to support them with, and we all need to support them. Whenever we've got a language program with the tribe, it absolutely should be supported as well. Absolutely. Because there's no question that we lose our language, we lose our culture, we lose our identity. We've got to hear it, we've got to speak it as often as we possibly can if we're going to become fluent and if we're going to be able to pass that on to our kids. So, thank you for the question.
Was your question to others? Anyone else?
I'll try to make it short and sweet. Right now, we don't have enough money to fund that program like it needs to be funded. And until we do, I think that it's going to have to stay a little bit stagnant, but we also need to speak the Seminole language. And in the past, we've had the Nothing against Muscogee Creeks, but they speak a little bit different than we do over in Seminole County. We need to all learn to speak the same language, or we'll end up being assimilated with the Creek language. But no, I think that our teachers are not aggressive enough to get out in the community and say, hey, come to my classes. But the thing is, we're so far out there. A lot of our people who want to be there can't be there because they don't have rides to get out there or the gas to get out there. I've gone out and volunteered. Call me when you need me, because hopefully I'm fluent. I've asked them to call me and I'll come help. I've helped them sit down and do videos. Our veterans group sat down and did a video in our native language. Not all of us were completely fluent, but at least we did something for those children out there. Whether they're using it or not, I don't know. We just need to sit down and take a real good look at that language class and what we, and I say we, I'm talking about all of us, can do to enhance that program and as I've been saying, in Stijadi they say, Stijadi gida mui, in other words, we lose our language, we're going to be kicked out the side of the road. We're no longer going to be similar. So I'd like to, I don't know, I can't say what I want to say because my heart's not totally with that part of it. I would like to see our language program flourish. And being bilingual, I should be one of the first ones. In my house, I speak our native language. Nobody speaks it in my house but me. My wife understands it, and my kids are starting to understand it. But I don't know if I'm going to live long enough to teach them the language. My grandpa taught me, my grandmother taught me, but in my house, nobody spoke English at that time. I went to school. My first language was the Seminole language. I tell people and they laugh about it, but it's the truth. I learned English by the foot. That teacher carried a ruler around in her hand, and every time I spoke native language, I'd get hit in the head because I wasn't speaking English. I failed my first grade year because I couldn't speak English. But my Seminole language, I went to Chillcoat Indian School. I graduated up there, but we had to have a foreign language. Y'all all know every school says you got to have a foreign language. A lot of them up there were learning Spanish. I went to Dr. Gregory and said, I'm not going to learn Spanish. I already got a foreign language. He said, what's that? And I said, I'm speaking to you right now in English. And Dr. Gregory was a Creek person, and he called the Oklahoma Department of Education down here, and the Oklahoma Department of Education told him, well, if that boy can speak your native language, we'll consider that a foreign language. And so I sat down, and he asked me questions, I answered them. He said, you speak it more fluent than I do. He said, so you passed. That's how Seminole language helped me get out of high school. Because I was too dumb to learn Spanish, to be just truthful with you. I didn't want to learn it. So, what do you with my life?
I won't take too long in regards to the response because it's going to be symbolic what I have to say in regards to that particular program. It's very important. It's going back to that mission statement about inspiring and empowering, creating that foundation and that environment for our children. And this is one of those areas that are very important for the future and the culture of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. And it is very important that we provide that opportunity for our children and for adults. This class here is a prime example of that, to give us the opportunity to be able to learn and have that opportunity. So real quick, shout out to Red Stick Warrior in regards to their giving us an opportunity to touch base on that. I think it also has to do, I know it does for a fact, it does have to do with finances to touch base on that particular one, because we have only so much finance to be able to be delivered throughout each program. And so in support of them, there's not going to be enough to be able to really to push and give them over top incentive to be able to go and achieve different and higher levels. And so we have to look to work to develop through our finances and through our thoughts, what are our priorities and what are we going to look at and address. And I think that is one of them that we need to look at and address is our language program, because it is fastly going away. Like in my family, my grandmother was as far as I can tell you, my grandmother was the last one that spoke the language of any kind, and everybody else had just quickly left. And it's a very important part of who we are. So I'm very supportive of it. I just think that we need to work on our finances to be able and then prioritize a direction in regards to that.
Other responses?
I have a response to the question about retention and preservation of language. Most of us know as the first preference is that it's spoken in the home and we learn that way. But not every Seminole person has the privilege of being in a household where both parents speak and that the kids also came out speaking. There are some exceptions, and I say those particular ones are not only very privileged, they are also very blessed to have had that type of household where they came to speak fluently and understand what was being said. You know, I was at a Seminole Nation Days program many years ago, and the speaker that was there that was from one of the ceremonial grounds, he was Seminole, but he was from separate ceremonial grounds in Gar Creek. But he was sharing something that was very inspiring. And I remember it to this day, as if it only happened yesterday, but it was 15, 17, 18 years ago, possibly. But this is what he said. He was telling the people that were all gathered around as this dance was fixing to take place. He said, what I want you to know is that this is a continuation. This is something that will continue to be. And it's taken sacrifices from generations upon generations of people for this to continue to be. And what happened is it takes someone who believes not only it should continue, but takes the accountability and responsibility to participate and make sure that it continues. You know, he said, well, and when he said that, he said it takes somebody to believe. Language, in this day and time that we live in, the 21st century, among many tribes, it takes those who believe that it's worth preserving, that it's worth retaining. And just as Wayne said earlier, it could be a prerequisite to the federal government say, well, these people don't even speak their own language no more. All they got is a card that says now that they're an Indian. So language is very important socially, culturally, and our true identity of who we are. So whatever those alternative ways that we can do to preserve it at different levels. Immersion program was one of the ways. How successful it is remains to be seen. But language shall always be on the forefront of not only cultural retention and protection, but also protecting our sovereignty. Our people used to say, whenever we leave this walks of life, that the Creator is going to speak to you in your own language. And whenever He speaks to you in your own language, what you going to say? You better be able to answer back in your own language in a traditional way. That's how our people have always said. So language retention and preservation is important. One thing, as far as what we would do, maybe even to contribute to what we're already doing, remember what we're doing historical preservation now, with the TCNS funds that's coming in, and that will continue to come in, unless, FCC and others, take it away under the Trump administration, we will fight that they do not in the consultations. We're in the process of that even right now. But one way, there is a MICA group, which is a cultural resources fund. They have different phases. Phase 1 and 2 is already gone. We're actually participating right now in that phase 2, which is basically tracking the relocation of the Seminoles from Florida to here, those points of where they were removed from, and then having a whole video and having a whole interpretation of that being conducted. We're doing that as I speak right now, because there's a third phase, and this third phase is limited to 2 areas. One area is preservation of a site or preservation of language. Right now, we have a plan from the Historical Preservation Officer. He's going to ask not for just a little bit that they give, but he's going to ask for a lot more. And if we're able to get that funding, we're going to get the funding. It's just a matter of how much we're going to get. But he has a plan to be able to put certain areas of the language right there where you're listening today that are not here on the internet. We know that the most effective way of language retention and learning is what? Just like Wayne learned it, right there at home speaking it. That doesn't keep us from having the responsibility of a tribal government to find all alternative ways to try to safely guard our traditions, our culture, and our language. And let me tell you this, the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, from the council up to the executive office to the band chiefs, we have a responsibility in this. We can't just say, well, you should have learned. You should have learned from the grandparents. You should have learned from your parents. Not everybody in this day and time is in the same situation that we were 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Those types of things are changing. The adaptation, even acculturation and assimilation to a certain extent is taking place. So language is important. It's so important that it's tied to your very identity, and it must be preserved and it must be retained with effective alternative ways as well. Thank you.
This one's a difficult one, finding a place to start. But for as long as I can remember, the Seminole Nation had a language program that would last about 3 years and it would go away, and it'd come back, last 3 years and go away. One of the first things that I asked the General Counsel of the Seminole Nation is essentially exactly what Mr. Northcott recommends. That if you want to preserve our language, and to actually because I hate to use the term preserve, if you want to make our language vibrant in our people again, then we have to pay for it ourselves. So my first budget to the General Counsel did just that. I asked for the funds, Council was able to give us some to get started, and we've used that to base as a base on which to build our language program. I am the first principal chief of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma who was not a first language speaker of the Seminole language. When I was asked the question, well, what about that in the future? I said, well, I guarantee you I won't be the last unless we have a commitment to the program. When I was young, all of our business was conducted in our native language, in the Seminole language. I have consistently put forth the goal that at one time, some point in the future, our people will once again be bilingual. Or maybe I shouldn't say once again, but will be bilingual. They need to be effective in speaking the English language and our native language to be able to live and work in this modern world. For many, many years, as Mr. Shaw indicated, we were told, you can't do both. There was a whole generational gap in teaching of the language to us because we had been told, you can't learn both languages equally well. That is not true. There are many places in the world where people speak several languages. There are many places in this country where people speak English in their native language with equal ease. That is my goal for our Seminole people, is to have the opportunity to speak both languages and be effective in each language. We set a school program in place, and the idea after about 2 years of research was, I asked the staff, how do we do this? The most effective program for revitalizing the language, native language, anywhere in the world is in Hawaii. The Native Hawaiians have built a system. It's based around the concept of immersion, and have been able to revitalize their language to a significant level over the last 20 years or so. Our staff looked at that and said, this is the model we want to use. So that's the direction we went. We started a small immersion program. We bought a location in which a language school could be built, and we obtained federal funding to build a curriculum for that school. Now, one of the different aspects of what we're running into, both in terms of working with our people, is that when you're talking about immersion school, we're not talking about teaching the language. We're talking about instructing everything that you take in school from, in this case, 0 to 12th grade, in the Seminole language. So building a curriculum in our first effort, which is now complete, was to build a curriculum in which to instruct grades 0 through 6 in the Seminole language, or in this case, we're using Muscogee as the base. We now have the capacity to do that. We ran into several issues. One was how to fund the program. There was only one tribal school allowed as a charter school, and we had hoped to use a charter school methodology to get the funding in order to allow our students to attend. That required going to the state legislature and working with other tribes to get that addressed. It has been addressed, and we can now do that. So we haven't completely lost the idea, but we have suspended the idea of pursuing that because of the revenue situation we're in. Our focus is now in a couple of things we learned along the way. Okay, we have a curriculum and we have a facility. Now we don't have teachers. You need, and the other option that came up at the same time is, you can now take a tribal language in the public school system and earn credit for it if it is taught by an Oklahoma certified teacher, and that same individual is also certified to teach the native language. Mr. Kuhn is a product of the Seminole Nation's teacher development program. We have two, and we have one in Seminole Public Schools. Mr. Kuhn was at Conowall. He's now at Wewoka. And I agree, he does a very good job. He loves it. He enjoys it. Our goal is to have as many teachers of the Seminole or Muscogee language available wherever they may be needed at the moment, but we'd like to get them all into the JOM schools in the Seminole Nation. There are 10 such districts. We have teachers in 2. We've been working with the schools, and they're challenged too. We train the teachers, but we'd like for the schools to employ them because they're certified teachers and they can teach other classes. And at the moment, as I said, we've only got 2 teachers who are, and one's in Seminole, one's in, excuse me, one's in Wewoka. We had to kind of get sidetracked a little bit in order to make that happen. What we learned from the core immersion school effort was the following. We were bringing young kids in, 0 to 3. When they went home, who did they talk to? The first analysis that we got of the first couple of years of that program was, well, the siblings wanted to learn, the parents wanted to learn, and the grandparents. There was nobody to talk to, so they couldn't help retain the language they were learning throughout the rest of the time. It's taken us, our focus was to create the curriculum. We had committed to the administration of Mary Street that curriculum. What we're now in a position to do, and this is what we're looking at the general structure of our finances, over the next 3 years, we're going to redirect our effort and where we're going to put our people. We're still going to work on the teachers with OU and other schools that have been working with us for that. But the other thing we're going to do is we're going to shift away from the immersion school and actually work on educating those of us who would like to learn more. All of the tools that we're going to be creating in the balance of 2017 and our program for next year is mostly going to be based on books, audio books, and online materials that can be used to enhance an individual's use of the language. I have asked our language staff to push the use of the language as a major aspect. Words and phrases, whatever we can get people to do, all the way up to actually speaking. Because what we know is that the language isn't spoken in the home or used in the home. There's no way that we're going to reinforce and actually create fluent speakers. So we're moving away from and trying to expand into the other areas. Our hope is, as has happened in a couple of other tribal settings, up north, one in the Dakota area, is that you'll get more groups like the Red Stick Warrior Society who take it on themselves to use materials that are created, you may have, in order to educate people in the language. We're not trying to be the only source of education for our language. What we are trying to do is enable anyone who would be interested in order to become a teacher of the language. We had planned this summer to hold a language institute at Seminole State College. And it would have been open to anyone who wanted to learn to teach the language. The other thing we found is you may speak the language, but teaching the language requires a different skill set. So we were looking at starting with a 2-week institute to bring people in to use the materials we've created and others that may be available to learn how to teach themselves, groups, maybe even classrooms, our language. If you're a certified teacher, you would have been great. We'd have wanted you there because when you're finished with the program, we'd like you to be certified to teach the language in the public school system. That's still one of the major goals. The other is just to try to encourage people to form groups, where they can learn and will work together on the development of their language skills. And we recognize there's people of all ages and language capabilities. Some understand a few things, some speak a few things. We're not all starting at ground zero. But the materials that we'll be developing over the next 18 months are all going to be designed to try to create and help create the base of language use that will greatly facilitate the immersion process so that we can create fluent speakers in our language again and have people be fully bilingual and perhaps even first language speakers again. That's the goal of the program as we have it right now today. Hello.
Another question from the audience in front of me. Seeing none, I'll turn to the electronic audience. I can sing and dance with a rose between my teeth. Yes, ma'am.
I have another question
Yes,
for
ma'am.
everyone. What is your stand on economic tribal sovereignty, and what are you doing in your work area or your profession or to enhance this tribal sovereignty. This is for everyone.
If you spend only 5 minutes
This will be quick. You're talking about tribal sovereignty in regards to the department that I'm in. Okay. Tribal sovereignty.
Or in your personal life too, that you have, been working on too, or ideas that you see too, or, anything that, as a Seminole, that
Well,
you're
okay.
promoting to, or you're.
When you discuss sovereignty, when you talk about sovereignty, it's what we need to protect. That is our intent. That's our purpose in which we do that. Now, there's certain things that have been established and set up that can challenge that just a little bit. It's something, it sets up just the way it is. And like if we do a mortgage or we do a loan, we do those things. When we do those things, that challenges our sovereignty. And so we have to be careful with that when that is taking place. All right. So like through SINDOC, I'll give you an example. SINDOC, the Division of Commerce. The Division of Commerce is established to set up to limit their wavering of sovereignty, to be able to do businesses like that. Because when you do that, you limit your sovereignty. Whenever you go out and you take mortgages, you do loans, you do all those things, investments and all that stuff. When you sign on that dotted line to do that, you limit your sovereignty because it's the only way they'll do business with you or work with you like that. And that's the reason why that SINDOC has been set up and established the way it is. Now, as far as the way that I do my daily walk, I guess, as far as sovereignty, but that's how, just a real quick overview of SINDOC, what SINDOC represents as far as its entity towards the nation in sovereignty. We are an instrumentality of them, an arm of the tribe to help protect sovereignty for the nation, because the nation is a government. All right, and I am instead, that's why SINDOC is there, to protect them on that behalf, so that they don't have to do that or worry about that. And so, that as my entity is set up to establish, to protect the sovereignty of the nation, if we're going to do business. Is that good?
Anyone else? Respond.
You're sitting there like, oh, it's always
Greg talked about that. SINDOC is a buffer between us and the outside world. They are allowed to borrow money, but talking about sovereignty, we only give up a limited amount of sovereignty. But you're asking what I do in my life. I'm retired. So my sovereignty is just trying to stay around the house, stay awake, keep up with the kids. But the thing is, our nation, each and every time a bill or an idea comes up, that's the first thing you look at. Is it going to threaten our sovereignty in any way? So, being on the General Council, I've had a lot of dealings with sovereignty. If it was up to the present governor of the state of Oklahoma, we wouldn't have any sovereignty. And the federal government's not helping us in any way to maintain our sovereignty. And if we get an attorney, I know here goes more finance, more money out the window. So we have to fight the state of Oklahoma or wherever we're fixing to set up something. Like right now, they're trying to infringe on, well, they did infringe on our sovereignty when we got our fuel, motor fuels, cigarettes, that cigarette tax. We shouldn't have to pay the state of Oklahoma, but we do. One of the things that really makes me mad is that our governor stood right there before us several years ago, before she became the governor, and blamed the Native American community for the death of her parents because they died of emphysema and we sell cigarettes. I, for one, I got mad, I stood up, I hit that table real hard and I told her, who twisted your mother's arm? Who twisted your father's arm? Who makes their money? I said, we're not giving them to them, they're coming down there and buying them. So you need to watch what you're doing. And then I left the room. I couldn't stand it any longer because it made me mad that she blamed us. And that was an infringement on our sovereignty, saying that we can't sell cigarettes. And then they went up on their taxes. So I'm just, I don't know. Sovereignty is great, but, and the federal government needs to help us. They don't. State of Oklahoma ought to honor it, but they don't. And that's not just our nation. It's all the nations. It's in Oklahoma. Next.
Sovereignty. It's not something given to us by the United States of America, but sovereignty is inherited from the Creator Himself that made us who we are and where we might live. And we are Seminoles. So it's inherited. It's inherited sovereignty. And all through the annals of time of our history, from leaders from even before we were relocated from Florida, even though they probably didn't even use that word, sovereignty, they knew in its purest form. But it would later become in English, and they protected it, and they watched over it, and they fought for it, and they exercised it. That's the thing about sovereignty, you need to be able to exercise it. We had a couple of comments through the community about land, purchasing of property and land. Your sovereignty is exercised not only because it's governed by the people themselves, but it also, you need somewhere to exercise it out from. A land base. Our land base, no doubt, has expanded, and it's expanded especially in the areas which I had anything to do with, which is the tract that was mentioned about 313 acres just across from the college and north of the hospital and the largest community in our jurisdiction. We will exercise our sovereignty on that piece of land. We will exercise it in business development, perhaps even in the area of medical assistance and medical application. And we will exercise our sovereignty. Does it happen overnight when you purchase a property? Anyone that knows things about economy, or establishing an economy, or even putting something into trust as far as the trust application, knows that it is a timely effort. So one day it will be, but it can be utilized right now for other purposes until that time comes and we start to have that initial plan. Some people think, well, you never had a plan for it. Oh yeah, we did. We knew that it was a choice property. Not only the current council, actually this council representative right behind me had a picnic right beside the lake on the back side of that property. You remember that? That is a prime piece of property in the largest town in our jurisdiction. And what we need to do is exercise our sovereignty on it. We applied for a grant that was going to help us in the development stage. How many know here today that grants are competitive? You don't always get each and every one of them you go after. It was unfortunate for us. We didn't receive that. That would have actually did all the A&E, all the road networking. It would have done everything that we needed had we been successful in obtaining that grant. But does that stop us from where we're going to go with that property? No. So sovereignty must be exercised in its fullest content. I was invited, and some people won't even go to places like this as an elected leader. I was invited to, I think it was can't recall what year it was as far as the anniversary of it, but it was a major anniversary on Philip Deere's old place. It was called the International Treaty Council. A lot of leaders stay away from gatherings like that. They may not want to be associated with those gatherings. It takes those people with the fire. It takes those people that will speak out for sovereignty, and you must be with them and among them, whether you agree with everything that one says. We never will agree all the time on everything and on every subject, but we need to show our support in all of Indian country for sovereignty. And I believe the time for leaders that are in the executive office and governors that lead nations to separate themselves with the grassroots movements in an Indian country, that time now has passed. With what's happening in D.C., we can't just let our grassroots folks do the speaking. We got to, from elected officials that hold Miko Abukta, the Miko, we've got to be able to stand, and we got to be able to not only stand, but we better be able to articulate in a manner and effective way to protect our sovereignty. And I believe I understand it in that capacity, and I will do everything that I can to do that very thing for the Seminole Nation.
Sovereignty is a legal term that comes primarily from Europe. It's used to describe the right of, in our case, the people to govern themselves. People of the Seminole Nation, as Assistant Chief said, have always held very strongly to the idea that we have the right to govern ourselves. And they've fought for that right. We've negotiated treaties. We literally fought for the right at different points in time. And to this day have been able to sustain our core sovereignty in modern terminology. Prior to 1907, the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma was a self-governing autonomous entity within the General Supervision of the United States of America. We had a fully functional court, we made our own laws, and we had our own law enforcement. We basically governed our territory. Since 1907 to this day, the land-based through allotment, we had originally about 400,000 acres of which we applied full sovereignty of the Seminole Nation, with limited exceptions as time went on. That sovereignty those powers were stripped of us. They never took away our sovereignty, our right to self-government, but they took away the powers of to exercise that sovereignty, and took also away where we could exercise that sovereignty. When I came into office in 2009, there was just a little over 11,000 acres within the Seminole Nation of which we could exercise tribal sovereignty. We had about 400 acres of trust land and a little over 11,000 acres of restricted Indian land. Today, I would argue that number probably is, in terms of restricted land, is probably less than 1,000, and we still have only about 500 acres in trust. Now, we're acquiring property which we hope to, eventually to place in a trust. But the key from the point of view of a government, and we are a government, to exercise your sovereignty, you must have physical territory over which that sovereignty can be exercised, where your laws are the laws that have to be followed by the people within that territory. The other aspect of that is you have to have the institutions that allow you to effectively exercise sovereignty. You have to have a police force. You have to have laws. And most importantly, you have to have an independent court structure. I've been fortunate in my 8 years to see the development and return to the Seminole Nation of the final piece of its sovereign power, and to see that we begin to exercise those powers. And that was the restoration of the core of the Seminole Nation, and I think we opened for business in 2012. That restored the nation to the ability to exercise the powers that we had at the time of statehood. The next thing we have to do now is to expand within whatever territory that we can, the land base over which to exercise that sovereignty. That's having the powers and having the institutions for which you can exercise sovereignty still means you have to have a territory over which you can do that. I believe it's 4 years ago, at Seminole Nation Day, I challenged the nation to recover at least 10% of our land, of the allotted land base, which is approximately 40,000 acres, by 2030. Because that's the key to our future and our ability to exercise our sovereign power and to govern ourselves. Resources are going to make that very difficult. But any person, any Seminole member, now and in the future, any Seminole leader, should be committed to the concept of expanding sovereignty through acquisition of more land over which we can exercise sovereignty, and continuing to build and support the institutions from which that sovereignty can be exercised. There's a number of areas we haven't touched, and I don't have time to discuss some of those areas today. The critical one is in the area of economic development, and that's a whole discussion and what needs to be done there. There's laws that need to be passed, land that needs to be acquired on which these activities can occur. So we look forward to trying to work and continue that. And the other thing that is probably the most critical aspect is we have to defend that sovereignty outside of the nation, both here at the state level and in DC. And we work with that every day, trying to make sure that those stay in place, and we're going to try to do that. And the systems you said, that's going to be a major challenge going forward. And I look forward to taking on that challenge. Thank you.
Other question? This discussion reminds me that my late mother, as sainted as she is, grew up in eastern Oklahoma speaking the language, monolingual in the language, and barefoot and wearing a feed sack dress on one of those dirt roads. A question, either from this audience in front of me or from the electronic audience. I'm accustomed to silence. Although usually when my wife throws something at me, she's saying something at the same time. No silence involved. Then I throw the floor open in the rank order that, as we started, for closing statements, of which are 5 minutes in length. Chief?
Once again, I want to thank the Oklahoma City Muscogee Creek Association for hosting this event today. I want to thank all of you who are listening online for the time that you've taken out of your day to listen to all of us here. All of us, I think, are committed to the idea of progress for the Seminole Nation. I don't know of anyone who isn't committed to that, who's running for either office. The critical part in going forward is going to be who has the experience, the knowledge and training to do the best for you, in my case, the position of principal chief. As many of you know, I have a degree in economics from Harvard, and I have a master's in public management, private management from Yale. From a business perspective, I haven't even been able to use most of what I've learned in the environment in which we've been struggling, simply because some of the opportunities that we would like to be able to take advantage of and use that knowledge and experience are not available to us because of some of the limitations that we spoke about earlier. As we move into the next 4 years and beyond, those opportunities are starting to present themselves. We have better locations which to develop. People have been more interested in those developments. I've been in office for 8 years. One of the key things that a lot of people look at is, do you have survivability? If we commit investment dollars to your nation, are you going to be there? And we would hope that we'll at least have another 4 years to get those types of investments brought into our nation and development. There's a number of things that we've been working on that we'd like to be able to continue to develop on your behalf. Language, some of the cultural activities, some youth activities that we're just now starting to get under development. Those are the things that it does take time to turn the ship around, so to speak. In 2009, I described the situation as a runaway train going the wrong direction. You have to stop that train first, which I think we finally got it stopped, but to get it going the other direction with speed, that takes a while too. So I didn't envision it would take quite this long, but it's still a process that has to occur. And it takes everyone working together to make that happen. With looking toward the future, I believe the Seminole Nation has a great deal of opportunity that remains to be accessed and developed. I believe that looking forward and some of the challenges we have to take advantage of those opportunities, I believe I'm the best person to help lead the Seminole Nation forward. I have the experience, I have the education and background, and for the last, since I guess 1989, 88, I've worked for the Seminole Nation with the exception of a couple of small periods when I worked for the Creek Nation and their health system, and I was out doing consulting work in Indian country. My entire professional life has revolved around the Seminole Nation. You have my 100% commitment to continue that as we move forward. Mado, thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Clark, for your efforts here today to keep us in line, keep everything in check. Appreciate it to OCMA for allowing us to use their facility. And again, Red Stick Warriors for taking the time to put this out online for everybody to have an opportunity to hear us speak. In regards to my purpose being here, I'm here because I felt that there's a need for a change, and understand respectfully with past administrations just recently with respect to them and their efforts that they have taken in the direction that they have worked, I know, diligently to be able to try to give their best effort to move the tribe forward in whatever their purpose was in regards to their administration. As we move forward, there is one thing I'm going to go back to, is that mission statement, to create a foundation and an environment that will inspire and empower our people to be successful. And I think that that is the driving force for me. That's what I have passion about. And that's why I'm standing here in front of you today saying that I should be the next individual to lead this nation for the next 4 years. Is based on that mission statement, because I believe in that. I believe that we need to inspire and empower our people to do better. Now, there's all kinds of facets in that, and we know that. I mean, there's many things that we have. But in regards to that purpose, I feel that that's something that I can deliver and that I can share and that I can instill in other individuals to believe in who they are and what they represent so that we can move the tribe forward. And I know we have vast problems or challenges that we have to face. The thing is that when you do this, you have to have discipline and you have to have work ethic to be able to address those things. It isn't just standing up here just talking about all this stuff, because we know we can, and it's all happened before me. But we have to be able to have the work ethic and the discipline to be able to see it through. And through another thing that I feel that I would bring to the table is through that mission statement is unity. We can talk all about this, but my interest of all things is not for me to be successful. It's for the person next to me to be successful. It's for the kids below me to be successful. It's not for me. I'm only a servant up here standing in front of you today sharing information about something I hope to be able to accomplish someday. But I want those individuals that are with me, that are standing here next to me, it's my obligation to try to do the very best that I can to make them and give them an opportunity to move forward and be successful. And that's what I hope that I can do as a leader of this nation. And I know that it's going to be many facets along the way, because we talked about so many different things. But we have to have that leadership in place to be able to do that. And I just hope that today, thank you again for this opportunity, but I hope that you guys vote for me to be that next leader, to provide that leadership, and to give you all that mission statement for the future, for the next 4 years. Thank you.
In closing remarks, I do want to thank each and every one of you who came here today, the sponsors of the event as well, and thanks for the longevity of this particular forum. It's been the longest one that we've been a part of this year. So you can watch it all the way into midnight tonight. I won't be. No, I probably won't spend that much time. But I do thank those organizers for having this. I have to go back to the beginning statements. Is a lot of times we think on a local level, and that's good, because that's who we are as a community. We ought to think what affects each and every one of us at the local level in the extended area. As there has been a lot of thought about Seminoles outside of the present jurisdiction of the Seminole Nation, don't you for one time think that we haven't thought of that and how we can do more to try to affect that. Federal funds, we're not going to be able to do much in that area. The resources that we produce outside of those federal funds is where it's going to have to be out of as far as resources. Except for Judgment Fund and Emergency Tribal Assistance, that's pretty much what you receive when you're outside of Seminole County. But my affiliation and my experience with the historical record and the position that I held for over 20 some odd years has become beneficial for this tribe, and I've never really tooted my horn over it. But there are judgments that took place because of research. Things just don't take place. Things just don't drop out of the air whenever you're going after a settlement. There's two major areas that we're looking at today. Most of you are familiar with it. Some of you may not. One is the minerals claims that the Seminoles have under the original 1898 Seminole Agreement, where half of the funds were to be reserved for the Seminole Nation. We, I believe, through the permission of the council and granting of the council, moving forward in that, we have a lobbyist now, and there is some areas of great interest at the area of the congressional and Senate level, and even we visited with the Bureau in DC. We've had an administration change, so we're not starting all the way over, but we are still going forward. The other area in that particular settlement, if we are able to get that award, will be the largest in the history of the Seminole Nation. So we're going to continue to move on that. The other is, just got information in the last few days. Fort Smith Historical Society is going to implement, I believe, in some of their development of their new exhibits to represent the bicentennial of Fort Smith. From a consultant point of view, our HPO officer went down and I went down, and I wanted them to incorporate the federal policies that happened in Fort Smith, Arkansas through the judicial system that affected Indian Territory and eventually the development of the state of Oklahoma. I'm going to keep moving in this direction. I believe we have the base evidence for eventually reclaiming our area in our former reservation, which is just across the river. Millions of acres of land. 1 month before the land run of the state of Oklahoma, in 1889, the Seminoles still had interest, what we call an encumbered interest. 1 month before the land run of 1889, the United States still had an applied trust to the Seminoles. You say, how do you know that? Well, I've got the historical record. I've got all 3 branches of government recognizing this. And I believe, with great effort, protecting sovereignty, exercising sovereignty, having the experience of the historical record, it's going to get us up here. And you folks that's outside of Seminole County that live in our old former reservation, I believe one day you will be living in the jurisdiction of the Seminole Nation once again. I was speaking at a conference on economic development, and I just touched briefly on that. And I know that's high secreted stuff sometimes, but I want you as Seminole members to know this. Back in July of last year, I presented a resolution. Nobody knew it was coming. But I had our Attorney General draft it. And what it was is one of the questions the Interior asked us in Washington when we were speaking to him on these matters is, what will others think? Meaning other Native tribes. Well, the Intertribal Council backed us fully. And they passed the resolution overwhelmingly by all 5 of the leaders of the 5 civilized tribes, and in the general session, that the United States recognized the Seminoles' former reservation. And I tell you what, they was wondering what other tribes think. Nearly 1 million citizens and members said, we want you to do that. And we are going to keep pushing for those 2 major areas. And I believe there's only 2 people in this whole race that can navigate the waters of Washington to be able to get that for the Seminole Nation. And with God's help, we will be able to receive those 2 very important historical times in history.
Everything they're talking about sounds great, but till we get it all done, let's concentrate on today. I didn't let y'all know that I was the alligator clan. And the other thing I didn't let y'all know is that I did over 20 years in penitentiary. That's why I said I was retired. But I got to go home every day. I worked for over 20 years. So, everybody looks at me, what? How are you running? Yeah, well, I was there for over 25 years. I was there. And I got to know a lot of, not just our Seminole people, but there are a lot of Muscogees, Cherokee, every tribe in this state of Oklahoma that's been imprisoned. I would like to see something that we didn't speak on or hit on today. That's the ASAP program. We're right now without a director, but one of the things I'd like to see is a reintegration program. And I think the Creek Nation has one of the most prolific programs for us to maybe follow. Well, Cherokees, Chickasaws have gone up, and the Cherokees have come. They've looked at the Creek Nation, Muscogee Creek Nation's, how would you say it, their program, the way it's set up, and they're patterning themselves after them. We don't have the finances to do what needs to be done at this time, but within this next 4 years, I would like to see a reintegration program for all those that are coming out of prison, for all those that are going into prison, because we need to go in there. I started as, most people call it, a guard, but I've also been a prison psychologist. My degree is in, what do you call it, I can't even think of it now, but that's what I did. I was a prison psychologist, and I can speak pretty well on this because every one of them, I don't care what kind of closet you got, you may not want to open your door, but by gosh, we've got a lot of our Seminoles, a lot of our Native Americans that are incarcerated, and we forgot them. I said, we forgot them. I seen they'd come in my office and sit down and cry because my mom doesn't come see me anymore. They don't even know the mother's already passed away. A lot of them say, my daughter don't come see me anymore. We've got to instill something to try to get that reintegration started at the prison level. When they come out, give them something to look forward to out here on the streets. Get them jobs. It's hard to get a job once you're a felon. Like I said, I can speak for myself. My uncle spent 21 years in the penitentiary, and he's retired. That's what he said. So I got my 20 years in. I'm retired. Well, I got my 20 years in the other way. I went home every day. But the thing is, we need to be doing things like that. We're losing our we're forgetting our own people. And not only that, but right here in Oklahoma City and surrounding areas outside of Seminole County, many of the people have forgotten these people. They are forgotten. If you live here in Oklahoma City, a lot of you are forgotten. If you live in Shawnee, you're still forgotten. You're only 20 minutes from Seminole County, and yet you're still forgotten. And we need to instill that back into our council, into our administration, and we need to start doing things for our people. I know that some people say, well, that's just talk. I wish it was. I committed myself since a little boy with my grandfather, my stepdad. I interpreted for old man John Brown. You know, we've got a lot of history with this nation. And I committed myself then. And you're going to get full commitment from me this time. The only thing that can be guaranteed from me is I'll work 100% for you, and that's it. That's the only guarantee that can be given out. But over.
I want to say thank you to everyone who is here in attendance, everyone who's in attendance online, and to all the candidates as well. This is a much needed forum that our people need to hear, to be informed on the candidates and our platform, so they'll get an understanding of where we would like to take, where we would like to lead the tribe, where we would like to take our people. I'm not going to stand up here and make any sweeping promises, any last-minute revelations on some surprises that I've been working on for the tribe, or that may or may not materialize. But I can tell you this: I've been working my entire life to step into leadership for our tribe and to be effective. I knew that growing up, I needed experience, I needed communication skills, I needed to have the ability to lead, and whenever I saw the opportunity, I developed my own companies so that I would know what needs to be done whenever the chips are down, whenever times are tough, whenever times are good. Whenever times are tough, we got to keep moving forward conservatively. Whenever times are good, we need to keep moving forward conservatively. We have to put a halt to unchecked spending. We have to build up the core of our tribe, of our government structure. And we have to keep an eye out for opportunities that will help our people, and just opportunities to help our people, period. I'm thankful for this time in my life. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be blessed the way I've been blessed, with a family, with work, with businesses, and the leadership that was set as an example for me as a kid. We do have challenges ahead of us. There's no mistaking that. We have a hole that we have to dig ourselves out of. We also have a federal government that is not our friend. That would just as soon see us close the doors, and they wouldn't have to bother with us anymore. So we have to make for ourselves a place at the table whenever it comes to these negotiations, whenever it comes to shoring up our treaty rights. There's an old saying, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're probably on the menu. We don't want to find ourselves on the menu because we aren't properly represented at the table. That's something that I have looked forward to. Not many people will look forward to stepping off into the middle of a storm. I'm thankful that I was raised by folks who prepared me for the storm. I'm thankful that I have the willingness in my heart and that I have the ability to step off into the storm. I look forward to keeping the interests of the Seminole Nation safe and protected, because by doing that, we can protect our members, and we can continue to move forward no matter what the weather. I appreciate Red Stick Warriors for hosting this. I appreciate our timekeepers, even though I've seen that red sign quite a few times. And I appreciate the leaders that we have here on this stage, because this is what we need in order to make our choices and to elect the best candidates suited for the job. We live in a time where we've got to move forward. I believe now is the time to move forward with our leadership so that we can be effective, so that we can continue to strive to reach our goals, headed in the right direction. I appreciate you all being here. Appreciate everyone online. But
I thank our candidates for taking the time to be with us. I thank you, both physical and electronic audience, and I want to thank our electronic guru. I personally watched him weave his tiny little whip, and he keeps each of those electrons moving quickly through the airwaves. Ili Mahes Che. Mado.